All right, here we go. We got yet another show In the Red Productions is bringing to the table. This one is called StreamQuest, and it's everything about streaming. And we thought, since this is our first episode, we're going to do something a little trailblazing, a little groundbreaking. I don't think anyone else has tried this. We are going to talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League. What do you guys think of that?
What do you mean? Wait a minute, Ralph. There's more than one Justice League?
You're talking about Josh Whedon's Justice League?
Justice League. So here's the thing. Now, we're doing a show about streaming, and our streaming's a little funky today, so you guys might freeze and catch up. Don't worry. It'll all be fine.
Hey, that's Retro StreamQuest.
I am definitely not the expert on this one. So I'm going to let you two take over the talking. I'll throw in a couple of my 2 cents, but why don't we start with John? You tell me, because you seem to be the superhero guy in this group. Look at your picture behind you. You get the
listen,
Justice
we have
League
to
looking over your
explain.
shoulder. Yeah.
We have to explain the reason. That's the original 7, by the way. That's the original 7 of the Justice League. The reason why we're doing this is our first episode coincided with the release of the Snyder Cut, which came out, actually would be last Thursday.
The 4-hour cut.
You know, our approach to this whole new podcast is to recommend different shows that we're all watching and streaming. But because the Snyder Cut
but back up. Not just recommend shows, but general talk about streaming. Streaming's become a big, obviously with the COVID being a year older.
Right.
Are we really going to explain everything? Like, should
I think we're going to explain the technology
to make noises?
No, that's not my point.
Drew, we're going to explain the technology of streaming. Yes, it's going to be very exciting.
I may not want to just
microphones work.
Okay, here's my point. My point is, I may want to talk about what I like to stream on, whether it's Roku or Apple TV.
Oh,
yes, slightly technical. Devices.
Okay.
Maybe. I'm not saying I will. I might want to talk about the Criterion channel, another streaming channel. I'm not saying we're going to come every week and go, we're going to recommend this is the things you should watch. Now, something may come out of it, and somebody may recommend something that someone might want to watch. So I just want to leave it open is my point. And very conversational. So
wow, that's
natural so far.
Yeah, what a great talking point, Ralph, to start a conversation on.
Okay, so why don't you talk about Justice League?
Back to the original subject. So it just so happened that the timing of this worked out this way, and because I believe the Snyder Cut has such ramifications on more than just the film Justice League, I think it's worth spending an episode on it. Let me just say right up front, I didn't hate the Josh Whedon version as much as many did. I had a huge problem with it. I didn't think it was a great movie, but there were things within it that I really liked.
Even in retrospect, after seeing this one?
Even in retrospect. There were, the biggest thing for me, I'm a huge Superman guy, and Snyder has really darkened Superman to be like Batman, and I don't like that. I like where Superman was always the light, Batman was always the dark. In the Josh Whedon cut, that was the first time you saw a Superman that was lightened up a little bit. I liked part of it. Now, obviously, the thing that I'm thrilled about is the CGI removal of the mustache, which is throughout. Every time you saw that, you knew it was a Josh Whedon scene, and you can't get past it. You can't just say, well, I can ignore everything because I really like what they've done with Superman, except for that blob on his face. So the fact that you didn't have to deal with that in the cut, I really appreciate it. Having said that, I think this version, I wasn't quite sure how I was going to feel about it because at 4 hours, that's a long time. But I have to tell you, for me, the 4 hours went pretty fast. And I also think, whatever you think about it, it was a far superior movie to the other one by leaps and bounds. It was like the things that were happening had more weight to it. The villain wasn't just, in the first one, in the Josh Whedon one, very two-dimensional, no motivation for what he was doing. It was just kind of silly. This, they really created a much better villain, and obviously, like in the Avengers, instead of Thanos, you have Darkseid, which was completely eliminated by the first one. But the thing I liked about it, they spent a lot more time on each of the heroes. So there was an arc for a lot of them. And the two that really stood out the most, Ray Fisher's Cyborg, which actually ends up becoming almost the heart of the movie, where based on the first movie, you would never have expected that. But there was so much stuff added to it that explains his power and the repercussions of his powers and how he ultimately was the one that was able to save everybody. And the other one was The Flash. Ezra Miller I like, but in the first one, he was comic relief, and that's all he was. And it was okay, but in this one, you realize how powerful he is, and they were still there, but nothing like the Joss Whedon version. So I want to hear from you guys, and then we'll get more into depth. But I really like this movie. It was a real movie, and I give him a lot of credit for how he did this. It wasn't perfect. There was some things that I wasn't crazy about, but it was a quick 4 hours for me, and I actually want to watch it again. And they're going to release a black and white version, Ralph, that they're also going to put on HBO Max that I'm also going to watch. So I really like this movie a lot, and it does take the taste of the things I hated about the other one. That's gone. I can really appreciate what Zack Snyder was trying to do. I might not agree with all the choices he's making, because, and Drew, you might not know this, but in the comic book world, I love Spider-Man, and I love some of Marvel, but I'm a DC guy. And when you look at
you're a DC guy.
I'm a huge DC guy, because you look at the characters, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, no Marvel other than Spider-Man is as iconic as that, and they've completely screwed up the movies, where Marvel has excelled in the movies, where DC's done a lot better in TV. This was a different version of it that I really did enjoy, even though I'd like to see it go in some other different directions. But I want to hear from you guys before I really delve into the repercussions of this Snyder cut.
Delve into? Oh, my God. Is this going to be a 4-hour thing, too?
No,
ahead,
but
Joe.
I think it's important to talk about what this means, the fact that it even happened. Well, what does that mean?
Well, the fact that it happened because we're streaming now and Zack Snyder was able to go back and do his version, I think is the important thing. Go ahead, Drew. What are you? What's your take on
here's
this
the thing. I took one for the team. I rewatched the original Joss Whedon Justice League from 2017, and then I watched the Snyder cut. It is, by virtually every standard, just much better. I mean, it has a story. It has characters. Ray Fisher is good as Cyborg, and his character's probably the as you said, the heart, and has a real arc through the movie. The original cut was in a hurry to go nowhere to try to ape Marvel, and Joss Whedon was a good fit for the Avengers movies, and not a good fit for this movie, because one thing that Zack Snyder never does is laugh. That's just, he doesn't have humor like that. So the weird part is that, there's a lot of different stories. Like the basic story is that Zack Snyder was making this movie. He had a family tragedy. He lost his daughter. I saw at the end it was for Autumn. It was dedicated to her memory. It was very nice. And so he stepped away, and Joss Whedon came in and took over. But that's not really what happened. What really happened is that Warner Brothers was already worried, like, this is so dark, so they brought in the light guy, which is ironic because Joss Whedon is not that light in real life, according to very many witnesses. But this movie was already, I think, in some ways doomed, because they were going to mix up all these tones and everything, and that's got to be very disappointing for him. The thing is, though, and there was supposed to be a 214-minute assembly cut that Zack Snyder put together, and that's the legendary Snyder cut that started it all and everything. Here's the thing, though. This is definitely this is what Zack Snyder wanted to make, and it's nice when, for a variety of reasons, a guy does have a vision and it's compromised often by studio interference, by things that happen in life. He gets to make it. It's not a movie, though. If anything, it would be two movies. I mean, originally the Avengers trilogy was going to be a trilogy, and then they said, this is so much, we're going to make a third movie and a fourth movie, which is what, Twilight did that with the last book adaptation. Harry Potter did that. A lot of that stuff happens. So I know they tried to counter that by making it into chapter titles and stuff like that. It was definitely better. But I'll say something that I'm sure you'll regard as heretical. Of all these new DC movies, I think Wonder Woman is a lot of fun. I found Man of Steel the most emotionally involving, and then Batman v Superman was a giant weird mess setting up stuff. Now this one is not a mess, and it sets up a lot of stuff that's not going to happen.
Right.
Because they're not. Well, I mean, this was never going to come out, so maybe they are going to go back to it. Who knows? But I felt like it was a much better movie experience. But this would never. You would never see this in the theater.
No, you're right.
He put it in 3x4
He would never be able to put out a 4-hour movie
and all that stuff.
And that's part of why the streaming thing is such a big deal. He was able to do his real entire vision, because this Justice League was supposed to be 2 films originally. That's the way he had written it. And Warner Brothers, when they saw what he was doing, they were petrified, because it was like the opposite of Marvel. And they just didn't believe in it, and they panicked. That's exactly what happened. Now, I'm not saying that his daughter's suicide didn't play into this, but I also think from Warner Brothers' point of view, it was a convenient way to get him off that picture. And I think that's what happened.
It's a giant corporate fear thing. That's just what happens sometimes. These movies are so big and so expensive.
You guys kind of mentioned a couple of things that I want to like. I don't care about the comic book movies.
Right.
I barely remember the first Justice League done by the
Justice
other guy.
League. Yeah.
Justice League. I watched this because we're doing the show. I'm glad I watched it. I like Zack Snyders. The look of his films, to me, I heard this the other day. Mark Commode said this, and I dead on agree with it. He's got like a Michael Bay type deal thing. Michael Bay knows how to shoot a movie.
Right.
Looks great. Does stuff nobody else tries, but the movies are basically crap. I kind of feel like that with Zack Snyder. I love his aesthetic. I loved Watchmen, and I haven't seen 300 yet. I love what he did with Dawn of the Dead. I like him as a filmmaker, but this movie, I was bored. There's nothing for me.
When that first started, I was like, "Uh-oh, this is the tone they're setting. Maybe this is going to be a long 4 hours." The idea to me, it wasn't even that clear. Like, Superman is dead, therefore aliens can come and invade Earth, and Superman dying is this event that is heard all over the world by other, what do they call them in DC, metahumans, all that kind of stuff.
No, the mother boxes are living entities. That was why Steppenwolf came to Earth, because the mother boxes realized that Superman was dead. And
why did they wait? Why did they wait? Why didn't they do all this when Superman wasn't here?
Because he'd stop them.
No, when he wasn't here.
No, before he came to Earth?
Yeah.
Well, Darkseid did it and then got kicked off. That was the whole flashback
and
Age of Heroes
not
thing.
only is it the squares, but there's also the
mother box, Ralph, not the squares. The mother
box. But then this thing where
they're not squares, they're cubes.
What's that thing? The pattern that's on the ground. The other thing that
the anti-life equation.
That one. If he gets that anti-life equation,
okay. So the sequel.
Is it just him and Thanos left?
No, the sequel is he kills Lois Lane.
I don't care.
Who's pregnant. And he uses the anti-life equation on Superman. That's what the whole nightmare sequence is.
I know, because his Joker killed Lois, and then Batman
Joker didn't kill Lois.
There's one other thing we didn't talk about.
Darkseid.
I have not seen the Aquaman movie.
Oh, it's excellent.
Me neither.
But I know that Amber Heard's character did not have a British accent.
She didn't have a British accent in the Josh version.
Right, so I don't understand what that's about. I also didn't care enough to find out, but that's such a weird decision.
Okay, but from a streaming point of view, what I found fascinating, one, that they streamed a 4-hour film. Now, you could break it down and say it's like binging 4 hours of a TV show, which I would do in a heartbeat, right? If you go show for show for show. And the way he set up his chapters, I think that was his thought going in, that you don't really have to take this all in one sitting. Although I think it works better that way because you're kind of involved. And then you mentioned the 4x3. When I first turned it on, I'm like, what's going on with this?
Yeah.
And then I realized, and I read where he likes vertical because he started shooting IMAX. Because superheroes, he says, except for Superman flying, who's the only horizontal thing, everything else is shot vertically, and it gives them more power. And from a technical standpoint, I found this fascinating that Warner Brothers let him do it. HBO Max, for whatever's going on with all the other stuff going on, it's a pretty bold thing. I don't know how they'll track if this is actually going to make money. But if you want to delve into
it crashed. It crashed
right.
HBO
well, because
Max.
it's sort of a phenomenon to watch. You know,
well,
everybody wants
so
to
was
see
Wonder
what's
Woman
going on.
84, and it didn't do that.
They have one goal, which is true for all of them. They want more subscribers.
That's
Will
right.
this bring in more subscribers?
That's
we don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
The fact is that Warner Brothers would not have said, let's spend another $70 million to remake this movie if there were movie theaters in business.
Now,
everything came together
let's be
in terms
clear.
of the way that
Let's be clear.
entertainment
It
is
wasn't
in the world
Warner
and all this kind of
Brothers.
stuff.
It was AT&T who bought Warner Brothers. They're the ones who got behind this. It wasn't Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers did not want to do this.
Well, yeah, AT&T is made HBO Max their priority.
That's
true.
right. So they're the ones who said that it wouldn't have happened without AT&T.
Like, okay, but again, back to the streaming point of view. Did they reshoot stuff for this, or was this all the stuff he shot for his original?
No, there was some, like the whole epilogue with Jared Leto was new.
I actually like that. I liked his reach around comment.
But you can see that most of the footage was already there. I think there was some pickups and some stuff like that. Yeah. But for the most part, it was all existing footage.
I just wanted to go at it from the streaming phenomenon. Now, you can go off, if you two want to talk about the breakaways and what this means for the universe, I don't care. I don't care about the superhero. These all seem the same to me. It's either 3 boxes that's going to end the world or 3, what is it, Infinity Stones in Marvel. It's always
6 stones, Ralph.
Oh, 6.
It's the MacGuffin, Ralph. It's the MacGuffin.
Well, whatever the MacGuffin, it's the same idea that these stones and these aliens from everywhere can always, I know there's no stake. Anybody can die and then come back, and it just means nothing to me. But from a streaming point of view, I just found this a phenomenal thing to kind of get us into this, because it's a phenomenon. This guy took a movie and recut it for himself for 4 hours, and they put it out. I think it's fantastic. You two go, if you right now want to talk about the offshoots and what it all means, go ahead, have at it. But
well, I mean, look, for one thing, it wouldn't have happened if the fans didn't ask for it. Okay,
fans aren't always right. Okay,
no, and that's part of what I want to talk about, because look, this was such a unique thing. We're not talking about like the director had all this extra footage. Director's cuts of movies. You see that all the time.
Right.
This is 2 directors who had 2 completely different visions of the genre, right? So when you and Drew, you must have noticed this because you watched it right before you watched the Snyder Cut. You watched the original. The difference in tone, the difference in lighting.
Sure.
The whole color palette was completely different in the Snyder Cut versus the original one, because the original one was supposed to be more like Marvel, so they wanted to brighten everything up.
Well, wait a minute.
Snyder didn't want that.
Zack's original wasn't going to be more like Marvel. Zack's original changed when Josh Whedon came in, right?
That's
what you
point.
see now is the color timing and the palette
That's
that
right.
Zack Snyder had intended. That's
he didn't
part of
want
what
the red.
I believe
he
Warner
wanted
Brothers freaked out about. Yeah.
That's right. They thought it was too dark. I mean, literally, they thought it was too dark, not just in tone. So
it's not the same thing about The Godfather, just so you know.
Right. But what I'm getting at is, it was a completely different version of a movie that people know existed out there, because Zack Snyder is big with the fans. So he would on Instagram, he'd put little, like an artist rendering of what Darkseid was going to look like, or a scene that didn't end up and everyone's like, what is that? What is that? So he kind of egged it on, but the fans really got behind it because they knew there was a different version out there that existed. And because of what the fans did, AT&T, when they bought Warner Brothers, took a look at it and said, hey, look, we got to drive people to HBO Max. This might be the way to go. They're talking about a Ben Affleck Batman series going on HBO Max. They're talking about taking the Snyderverse. If this does what they think it's going to do, they might continue the Snyderverse. I just read something about that today. Now, my only thing is, does a director now go into it knowing that if the fans get behind it, they can release another version later on? See, this was a very unique thing, the way it happened. And, it's like you always say, Ralph, lightning in a bottle. But could directors start having that in the back of their heads now and end up with 2 different versions of movies, knowing if the fan... And I'm not just talking about in the superhero genre, in any genre. do you run the risk of directors doing this purposely to get two versions put out there?
I think this was not even lightning. I just think this was a weird thing that happened with his daughter. I think she committed suicide, and
She did.
Josh Whedon coming in, and then the reports about Joss Whedon, and then I think retroactively when you look back at some of the stuff that Whedon was putting in, and I'm just saying this because I read it, I did see the scenes where the Flash flops on top of Wonder Woman and makes some snide comment, and the other guy sits in the lasso and says how gorgeous she is. That's all Josh Whedon's little things. Yeah, I just think this was like one in a million that this would happen, right? People do director's cuts all the time, and 9 times out of 10, they're not as good as what went out in the theater.
Well, yeah, the difference is that this was the replacement of a director.
That's what I'm.
So
that's right.
There are other examples of this, like Paul Schrader did the Exorcist sequel, and the studio said, we hate it, so let's have Rennie Harlan reshoot 90% of it. Then they released it. Then a year later, they released the Paul Schrader version.
Right.
And there are, I mean, look, I would be genuinely curious to see Lord Miller's original version of Solo, the Han Solo.
Oh yeah, before Ron Howard took over.
Before Ron Howard reshot, allegedly again around 70% of all this stuff. I'm genuinely curious. I don't know that it would be a good movie or a better movie, and I enjoyed Solo, but this is an example of a guy getting a second crack at something, which is just cool.
Yeah,
and also it's funny because it's so much better than the original version. I didn't love it or anything. It was okay, but it's nice to see that it was so much better. Now, of course, the version of Justice League that I really wanted to see will never be made, and that was the one that was gonna maybe come together in, I guess, now I guess we're talking about 10, 15 years ago.
George Miller
was gonna do it because I love me some George Miller. But it's interesting because all these big studios, they want to build these giant franchises, and the what's driving it is Marvel is they premiered another, talk about what people are watching. They premiered another TV series this week with I keep wanting to say the Falcon and the Snowman, but that's
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Right.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So, I mean, people in the movie business are always like, if they can make a sequel, then they'll make that before they make something original, and it's all about managing that risk and all these things. But the fact is, this was a $300 million movie in 2017.
Right.
And they've spent now another $70 million. Who knows how much on marketing, all this kind of stuff. I don't know what they'll do with it. I know Robert Pattinson has a Batman movie that's already shooting. It got shut down by COVID, but that's going to happen. And then I think Zack Snyder himself has been talking about what his plans were for Justice League 2 and Justice League 3 if he had gotten to do the trilogy. And when I say he's talking about it, I mean he's telling you everything that's going to happen,
right?
About like the what the second movie is about, and the fate of different characters, and who lives and who dies, and all this kind of stuff. And that doesn't sound like a guy talking about movies he thinks he'll ever get to make. So really, I don't know what will happen. But it was definitely an improvement, and I don't know. I mean, I love going to the movies. I haven't been to a theater in more than a year, and I think that sucks. But I have enjoyed being able to watch movies at home. I'm going to watch, the new Godzilla movie on my birthday, and that'll be fun in my living room.
Well, that's what streaming. I mean, we all streamed before this COVID thing. All of us did. I just feel like it's taken on much heavier role, both in Hollywood's lives and our lives, and I think it's changing everything. And partly that's why I want to do this show, which is just to talk about the different shows that we're all watching, because we're all definitely watching completely different things. There's no question about it. And I think our perspective might, be fun to, like I said, that option paralysis people get when they're trying to figure out what they're going to watch, and you stare at the TV for 20 minutes before you even decide. Maybe we can help a little bit with that. Now, but what did you think of? Did you guys both watch it 4 hours straight? And Drew, were you 6 hours between the two of them, or?
I watched it No, I didn't. I've seen Justice League. I have it on I just got a 4K version of it, so I've seen that plenty of times. So I was just amazed. Stuff I thought Josh Whedon shot, actually Snyder shot. I was a little surprised. There was some humor that Snyder injected, but there wasn't a lot of it. But for people who don't know, I mean, 75% of it was reshot. And when you watch the two versions, like Drew did, you can really tell that they really did. Entire scenes were completely gone. But to me, it had a much more epic feel to it than the first one did. even the battle in the beginning with the Amazonians and the Atlanteans and the Green Lantern, that definitely had a Lord of the Rings feel, and I think
Is that
that's
when
what
the
he was
first
going for.
first Infinity Stone came
When
along?
Darkseid, young Darkseid, gets the axe in the shoulder, but it also explained Steppenwolf's motivation, which the first one didn't.
Yeah,
And
Steppenwolf
also,
came up-
he was
yeah.
much more badass in the second one than he was in the first one.
Well, I think
in the way they
Well,
killed him.
Ralph, we're talking about when Steppenwolf created and then lost the One Ring, so that
Oh.
wait,
Drew,
I
that
think
doesn't
I'm
make any
mixing it
sense, Ralph, because he hasn't seen the movies.
just
So he hasn't
Oh,
seen the Lord of
God.
the Rings.
I
So
got
that
him ready
means
to go.
nothing.
I got him ready to stream.
There's
Look,
something you
that
could
was
stream.
that was a nice change. I mean, the
line him up.
Steppenwolf character actually had a character. He had a motivation. In the first movie, he's basically, I'm bad,
Right.
and
And he even looked
that's
bad.
it. That's
he
not
looked
that compelling.
bad.
Well, he looked like. I know that our opening credits are very sophisticated in terms of the way that
Thank
8-bit
you. I
technology
think
and
they
stuff
are
has
too.
gone. and
Very
I love
80s
it.
arcade, yeah.
But Steppenwolf in the original Justice League, man, he looked like he stepped out of the coolest 1996 video game cutscene ever. So it was really, I couldn't believe it. This one, I don't really care for the design more or less, but it definitely looks more modern. And listen, his character had a reason to behave the way he was behaving, and I think every character should have that. So that was a big improvement.
Well, he
But
was
to
also-
answer your question from before. I didn't watch it all at once. I probably watched the 6 hours across 4 days, and
yeah,
I watched. I basically broke it right in half because the big battle in the tunnel under Gotham City that ends really right at 2 hours into the movie. So that's honestly where I would have said, let's break it if we're going to make another movie, if we're going to split it into two movies, and that was a natural break. And so I ended up watching that, and then the next day I finished it. So
Well, they were
I didn't-
originally
I didn't
gonna-
break it up like watching it 20 minutes at a time or anything like that.
When they originally were talking about doing this, it was going to be a miniseries. It was going to be done in 4 episodes. And
okay.
I don't know why they decided not to do that, but it didn't bother me because I'm binge watching everything anyway. I'm watching 8 hours
Right.
straight of a show, so for me it was no big deal. I mean, there were parts that dragged, like poor Amy Adams. As integral a part of the Superman lore as she is, there's wasted scenes in this movie where she's doing nothing, and it's just a waste of a really good actor. Same thing in Batman versus Superman. For most of it, it was just I feel
And then-
bad about that. I know Superman's
Look, Amy-
costume. I love his costume, his black costume. That was pretty cool. That's straight from the
Amy
comics
Adams-
too.
Amy Adams and Diane Lane are arguably the best actors in terms of skill in the entire movie. They have one scene together in
Right.
Amy Adams in Lois Lane's apartment that's a really well acted, nice scene with emotions and stuff. And then it wasn't Diane Lane. Diane Lane wasn't Clark's
Martian
mom.
Manhunter.
He was,
Right.
I had to
And
look
that-
up who the Martian Manhunter was. I didn't
Well,
know who
he-
that was. So that was kind of a weird thing to actually have a nice scene. It's like, oh, Lois Lane is in this movie. Good. But that wasn't really a conversation. It was weird. It
Right,
was a weird
and
choice.
that was one of my complaints was they wanted to introduce, like that scene at the end with Ben Affleck. That was a new scene. That wasn't from the original. He didn't film that. That was a thing. You could tell too because Ben Affleck looked much thinner than
With
he
him
does
and
in the
Joker,
movie.
that scene.
No, before that
No,
they
the
had
Martian
like
Manhunter
they
showing
had
up
I
at
got
his
a
house
question. The
thing.
guy
Yeah.
that Lex Luthor talks to on the boat. Is that
Deathstroke.
Deathstroke, not Deathshot. Okay. I can't-
Dead.
See,
There's
this is-
there's
okay.
Deadshot.
I don't want to know.
And Deadpool was based on that too.
Okay.
just
I don't
so
wanna
you
know.
know.
I don't wanna
That's
know.
Joe Man.
And the
What's his
Dead
name?
Zone.
But
Joe.
don't you
Joe
think that they
Manganiello.
Yeah.
don't you? I know we're the only ones right now talking about this on the internet. I know that. We
Well-
gotta be. Nobody else thought of this. It's amazing. But don't you think they did this so everybody would talk about the fact that they had the balls to put a 4-hour film up that people were clamoring to
Sure.
get on? They shut down the HBO Max because everybody wanted to get on. I mean, it's kind of brilliant marketing. And the movie's kind of
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
but
so-so.
but Ralph, it's been marketed for a year. Everybody knew it was
Well,
out there.
Right. That whole fan
So,
thing. That was
yeah,
going
okay,
on, but-
yeah, I agree with that. And everyone is talking about it. And frankly, it is whether you love it or not. It is like Drew said, it's a far superior movie to the original. And I didn't hate it as much. Like I said, I didn't hate it as much as everyone else because for me, seeing them together For me as a comic book fan, that's something I've always wanted to see more than the Avengers. I wanted to. I was brought up on the Super Friends in the early '70s, right? So that's what I wanted to see. Maybe not this version, because again, Snyder is so dark. I will say this: I think the one thing that he did really, really well was with the Batman character in Batman versus Superman, and in this version, not in the other one. I thought they blew it. But I think Affleck does a really nice job. And I will also say that one of the best fight scenes in a Batman movie was in Batman versus Superman, the warehouse thing when he saves Martha. Before that happens, that whole warehouse scene and that's straight out of the Arkham Asylum, the video game. So I loved what he did with that. I hate what he does with Superman. I hate it. I liked that Wonder Woman was more badass in this version than she was in the Josh cut, because she's a warrior.
Well, she also feels like the same character that's in her own movie,
exactly.
Wonder Woman,
right.
I didn't really like Batman v Superman very much at all, but I do like the scene in the final battle where she shows up.
Yeah,
I thought she was with you, that little moment.
Yeah,
and you're like, okay, this is a character that's on par. And that was before her own movie came out and everything. So it definitely felt like these are the same characters, which is, the whole thing is they wanted to do Marvel, and they couldn't pull it off, and we don't know what it's going to look like now.
No, Warner Brothers wanted to do Marvel, not Snyder.
But this is more. No, I'm sorry, not the tone. Excuse me, not the tone in terms of building a franchise, building a universe.
Definitely.
Yeah, not the tone at all. I don't mean that.
Yeah.
This movie that just came out on HBO Max definitely feels like they're trying to achieve that goal. I don't know now what will happen.
Well, that's right. The Snyderverse.
Listen, Marvel did what, like 22 movies in 10 years that made $9 bajillion. I mean, that is unparalleled. But they're going to remake all this stuff anyway. You don't like Robert Pattinson's Batman in next year or whatever? There'll be another Justice League in 10 years.
Well, do you know they're coming out? They're coming out with a Flash movie with Ezra Miller, and it's going to introduce the multiverse. So that's why they're talking about Michael Keaton's going to be a Batman in it, and they're going to bring in Affleck as a Batman. So they're going to be able to do all kinds of different stuff. The thing that Marvel did that I give them so much credit for, because they weren't well-known characters other than Spider-Man, they gave each character their own movie before they did the Avengers. Sure. And that's the mistake that DC made. They did Man of Steel, which I had my problems with, but it was a great way to introduce the Snyderverse, and then they went right to Justice League. Batman versus Superman, then the Justice League, as opposed to giving Aquaman his own movie, Flash his own movie. Wonder Woman came out after Justice League, if I remember.
Batman v Superman.
Yeah. So
no, I think they were the same year, weren't they? Both 2017.
Okay, they might have been.
I don't remember.
They might have been. So I think that was the mistake DC made, because they wanted right away to get them all together. And I think the reason they thought they could do that, they're much more well-known characters than like Thor and even Iron Man, for that matter. So I think that was a mistake, and I hope that, if not Snyder, I hope that somehow this continues the DC universe, because it's, like I said, the characters are so well known, and I think that, and if they could just take a page out of the TV, because the TV shows, I don't know if you've watched the latest Superman. It's Superman and Lois. It's really, really well done, and I'd like to see more of that. It shouldn't all be Marvel, because frankly, Marvel, although I'm going to say something that's just kind of like Justice League too. It's like all CGI, and I hate that. I don't like that. That's why, for me, my favorite Marvel movie is Captain America: Winter Soldier, because it was the most grounded in reality and the most use of practical effects. Where, like the Avengers: Infinity War, it was so cartoony and CGI. I just got tired of it.
Maybe I should have done a comic book open, because we're talking about streaming.
It's streaming.
You want to have a nerd alert about comic books? Go to another show.
No,
not this one. This is about streaming, okay? The Marvel, the universe, and 17 Spider-Mans. And
by the way, all of them are streaming on Disney Plus.
There you go.
And
now,
HBO
thank
Max.
You for bringing that back.
Well, we can wrap up this part of it, and then we can end with: is there anything you guys have seen in the past week for other people that might want to watch that isn't from DC or
Yeah, I'll throw one in.
Or Marvel, because there's always a lot of stuff out there, and you want to tell people what they might enjoy to watch. And I have two. I've been watching the Real World Homecoming, the reunion show. I grew up on that, and it's really quite remarkable, actually, in terms of what has and hasn't changed in this country. Like, these are the first reality show characters that you feel like you knew on television, so it's been nice to come back and see them. And then the other show that I've been super excited about, and I won't lie, I'm a little late to this. I think it started in 2017. It's on HBO Max, so HBO Max, you got me there to watch the Snyder Cut, and I explored other things. The Great Pottery Throwdown. I have discovered that I like reality competition shows where people actually have to have skill in the competition, and it's something that I don't know how to do. And so these are people competing to do pottery in England, in Stoke-on-Trent, where a lot of modern pottery was born. And it's just great. It's just really
I used to love
great.
watching
It's got great characters. It's a lot of fun. It reminds me of, I think it's called Blowout, the Netflix glass blowing show, which we really enjoyed at my house as well. So that's a really fun thing. And that's one of those shows, that's been out for three seasons so far. So I mean, we're not watching more than a couple at a time. But if I wanted to sit down and binge 5 episodes, you could do it, and that's fun.
That's what streaming's all about. I streamed on Netflix. I watched the documentary called The Last Blockbuster.
Oh, I want to see that one.
I almost wept. It just because I have nothing but physical media back behind me. Laser discs, VHS, cassettes. I'm into cassettes now, records. I love physical media. And this film, definitely, it's all about this one place in Benno, Oregon. I can't remember the name of the town. I should.
I think it's in Oregon, yeah.
It's in Oregon. It's the last one. I think it's still around. Anyway, real good. Streamed on Netflix, so I highly recommend that one.
I will.
John, anything else?
Yeah, there's 2 I want to talk about. One, I'll stick in the superhero vein. If you haven't seen this, and I wish I had, I didn't know we were going to be asked this, so I don't have the cast list. But Amazon Prime, there's a show called The Tick. That's an old one. No, this isn't the old one with Patrick Warburton. This is a new one with the guy who, you see the movie Spy with Melissa McCarthy? And Jason Statham, he was the English guy who did all the different accents, and he was hitting on Melissa McCarthy. That guy.
I think it's Peter. Isn't it Peter Serafinowicz?
Yes, he plays the Tick.
Yeah, he's
really.
Great.
It was only 2 seasons. It was only 2 seasons, but it's really good, and it's worth a watch. The other show, and I talked to you guys about this. This is a show from actually 2014 that my wife was telling me about, and I started watching it, and it's called Longmire. And it's on Netflix, and it's like an old Western. And there's not a thread throughout all the episodes. They're self-contained episodes, at least what I've seen so far. And the lead in it is Robert Taylor, who's an older, grizzled sheriff. And it's in Wyoming. It's right next to an Indian reservation. And Lou Diamond Phillips plays he owns a restaurant, and he's kind of the sheriff's confidant. It's based on a series of books. I didn't even know that. It's excellent. If you get a chance, check that out. Now, I know it was an A&E show, and about halfway through, A&E canceled it, and Netflix picked it up. So it went on, I think, for six, maybe 7 seasons. But if you get a chance, take a look at that. It's really well done. I'm enjoying watching it. So
yeah, before we go, we were remiss if I didn't mention this, but National Geographic puts out this series called Genius, and it's about famous people like Einstein. They did one. I think they did one on Picasso. Well, the one that premiered on Sunday night, and it may even be on Disney Plus at this point, I'm not sure because Disney owns Geographic. Aretha Franklin.
Oh yeah,
and the woman who was in The Outsider on HBO. She played she helped the guy catch the bad guy. I don't even know her name.
Yeah, she also played Harriet Tubman in the movie Harriet.
Right. She was also in the Royale.
Actress.
The Bad Things Happen at the Royale.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did some previews for it. I did some trailers, and she's phenomenal. So that's a good one.
Cynthia Erivo, I think, is her name. She's really wonderful. So I'm not surprised to hear that. That's a good series. I like that series.
And I think we'll just continue this. The streaming's going to be around a while.
I think this episode was a real strong stream. I don't think it was a weak stream at all.
I think it might have been a good strong stream. Yes,
strong stream.
You're right. For 3 old white guys, there's a pretty strong stream going on right now. Yeah. So there you go. Next week we'll pick some others. We don't
Next
know where
week
these
will
are
be
going to go.
a plethora. It won't be one, but I thought
Yeah.
it was. I was listen. Just so you know, I was going to do one on my own and review Justice League.
You
and
should.
Ralph brought it up that we should talk about it because it is a big streaming thing that's happening. So
Like I
so
said,
that's
no
why
one
we
else.
did it.
I don't know what's going on. Nobody else is talking about it.
No one brought
Well, I
the
don't know
perspective that we brought.
I don't know what I'm going to talk about next episode because I haven't watched it yet.
That's the beauty. That's what I like about our format here is we don't know. I don't want to know
Oh,
what
it's
you
like
guys
a
are gonna-
conversation.
Exactly. Which you can stream on Criterion, I believe, the conversation. I don't know.
Yeah, Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
See you on Filmstruck, everybody.
Filmstruck. What?
Yeah, they're gone.
Oh.
They didn't make it.
Oh, I was subscribed to them. They became Criterion, right? That's what happened. Filmstruck became, I think, Criterion.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah. All right,
A
guys.
lot of
So
good services out there.
watch a lot of stuff. We'll talk about
Not
it
bad
next
for
week.
our first episode, right?
I think it went all right.
Ralph, what about, do you want anyone to subscribe to this channel?
I will throw that stuff up. We always do, of course.
I say, hey, listen, if you like streaming and you want you want to hear about streaming and maybe we can give you a suggestion, then subscribe, share it, and hit the notification button.
Yeah.
And we appreciate
good.
you guys watching.
Because you just froze during that pitch. That was beautiful.
Whatever, I don't care.
I don't know. You didn't
That's
freeze
part
it
of
all in the
streaming.
middle. Then you
It's part of
just- that's
streaming.
all. I like
There's always room
streaming.
for streaming in the world of illusion.
Because streaming can make... Yeah, we're living the stream is what we're doing. We're going to throw them
my
all out
God.
there. I know,
Islands
sorry,
in the stream. That is
So-
we are.
These are all the names that we decided not to use. So
Check out
we
our
got 'em out in
YouTube
front
channel
of
too. We got a
you.
YouTube channel.
Check it out.
Check it out.
So, Drew, we have a website too, right?
Not yet, but we will.
StreamQuest.com or StreamQuestShow.com.
It will be StreamQuestShow.com.
Nice. StreamQuestShow.com. I like it.
All right. So you guys have a safe week, and keep on streaming, and we'll talk about it next week.
John will flash you again.
Well, I'll show you this. This is
Keep
Better
on
Call
streaming.
Saul.
Oh,
I
wow.
really think Breaking Bad was the first one that I binge watched ever, other than Sopranos. Well, I didn't binge watch Sopranos. I watched Sopranos every Sunday it came out, religiously. So I think Breaking Bad was the first one I actually sat down and watched and just binged because it was after it had been out for a while. So anyway,
Yeah. Me it
That's
was The
mine.
Walking Dead.
that's my streaming story.
That's it. First show I ever binge watched.
Yeah, Drew.
All right, that's it, man. Let's
Are
go.
you guys still talking? I thought the show was
I know, Drew. I mean, he said goodbye and then he kept going. So I'm
All
like,
right.
let's keep going.
Now it's
This could be
goodbye.
4 hours, like the
It's hard to
Justice
say
League.
goodbye to you guys. It's hard to say goodbye.
Do we have a Quattrucci cut of this show?
We
Listen,
have a
in
4-hour
in
cut.
4 years, we'll have the long cut, but we're not doing that tonight.
Ralph's vision or Drew's vision? Whose vision is
one
it
of
going to
us.
be? Competing
Who
visions?
knows? We'll see what Warner Brothers and AT&T have to say about that.
All right, everyone. Stay
All right.
safe.
Keep streaming.
Keep streaming.